and welcome to Henry's Baseball Show. My name is Mark Elliott. We're joined today by Sandra, Tim, and special guest Steve Lyons. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the star of Henry's Baseball Show, it's Henry.
Hey fans, we're right here, and we haven't been on the air for a while, so we're glad to be back. My special guest tonight is Steve Lyons. Steve Lyons played for the Red Sox, the White Sox, and one other team, and then he got into broadcasting. He went to Beaverton High School in Washington, and on the set is Mark, Tim, Sandra. So just so everybody knows, a while back I used to work out, I'm just going to talk for a moment, Steve. A while back I used to work out with Rich Gedman, Jim Corsi, and Dennis Eckersley. The four of us used to work out indoors at the Waltham Athletic Club. So, Steve, let's get to, how did you get signed? How did they find you? How did it all start? Give us the beginning.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how they found me. I grew up in Oregon. It's not a hotbed for baseball, that's for sure.
Yeah, but it said you went first round.
Yeah. Another mistake they made, I guess.
Well, no, you became a major leaguer. You know, a lot of people don't make it. You did fantastic, in my opinion. Considering.
Yeah, a lot of guys make it, I guess. I had pictures of the GM, probably. I don't know. I really the reason I got drafted was because I had a great summer season. A lot of people, obviously in the Northeast, everybody knows about the Cape League, and I played in a league similar to the Cape League in 1980, which was after my sophomore season at Oregon State. And that's where all the pro scouts come and watch the players that are going to be draft eligible for the next year. And just to give you a kind of a history of the way those summer leagues have gone, when I was playing, the best place you could go would be Alaska. There were 4 teams up in Alaska that always got the best collegiate players, and I didn't go there. I went to Dodge City, Kansas, and there was a Jayhawk League that they called in Kansas with a bunch of teams neighboring the state. And then at the end of the year, they'd have this big tournament, the NBC tournament in Wichita, Kansas. And our team from Dodge City went. A bunch of, the 4 teams from Alaska came. And to show you how the landscape has changed, the competition in the Cape League at that time was so low that they didn't even send a team to represent the Cape League. Now, the best players go to the Cape League. And that's how it's changed over the last 30, 35 years or so, 40 years even. But I had a great season there after my sophomore year, and a lot of the scouts saw me play. And so after my junior season at Oregon State, then Boston drafted me.
Steve, what was the biggest adjustment or leap from you that you encountered going from college to the pros? And I assume that you started at Pawtucket?
Oh, no, I started way lower than that. I started in A-ball in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Wow.
And, of course, that team had already played together for 2 months before I got there because they were a long-season A-ball team, and the draft is after the college season that, ends in June. So those guys were playing together since April. So I joined the team, 2 months into the season. And I was a little shell-shocked. It wasn't so much the baseball. I fit in baseball-wise. I was competitive. I was good enough to be playing there. It was in the locker room stuff and the off-the-field stuff, the way we treated each other in the clubhouse, I'd say. Inside those clubhouse doors, there's kind of no rules. You can talk the way you want. You can insult each other, and that's kind of the way things are. Guys insult each other all the time. They use racial slurs to do it. It's a different world in there. And I think that's how most athletes get themselves in trouble. If they say something wrong or if they say something insensitive outside of the game of baseball, is because they forget that they're still not in the locker room, and they'll say something off color that just doesn't work.
I'm going to have to say that I agree with you entirely, Steve, with that comment. Actually, things have truly changed, and that was one of my questions I wanted to ask you, is what you felt has changed the most over time with baseball, and what you've seen, especially with kids going into the sport today, and that is one of them, indeed. And is there anything else that stands out to you these days, other than the pitch clock, which I know is new to the game? And
Yep.
that's
Steve, it's pretty obvious that after seeing your Twitter feed, you're not a fan of the pitch clock.
Actually, I don't mind the pitch clock. I don't like anything else.
Okay.
I hate replay. I tend to think that it's only there to show the mistakes that are made. And, to me, baseball is a perfectly imperfect game. And it's, to me, the computer geeks and the people who never played the game, who think they know a better way of doing it, are the ones that are trying to make it perfect. It's not a perfect game. It's not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to learn and grow and become a better person through the adversity of the game of baseball. The fact that life isn't always fair, and neither is the game. We don't have to make it perfect. And quite frankly, I think the umpires do an amazing job. It's an extremely difficult sport to call the plays and get them right all the time. And the simple fact is, we should just be able to live with the judge who's on the field, who would be the umpires and the referees in sports, and understand that they might miss a call every once in a while, and you have to overcome it. The pitch clock I like, because the game does need to be speeded up, but I always had one solution to speed up the game. And I certainly wouldn't have liked it when I was playing it, but when I was a broadcaster, and now that I'm not involved at all, call more strikes. The more strikes you call, the hitters will understand that they have to go to the plate swinging the bat. It'll speed things up. It will shut down some of the offense a little bit. But if you want to speed things up, tell the umpires to call more strikes.
So what was your first at bat? You finally made the major leagues. What was that first at bat, and how did it feel to finally make the major leagues?
It felt great. My first at bat, I walked. So it's not the greatest story to have told. I pulled
didn't you hit 2 home runs or something?
Well, I did that in my first start. Memorial Day is coming up, and you guys understand how long this season has been already for the Red Sox, where they've played probably 30 or 40 games so far. And I had made the team in 1985 out of spring training. I was on the team the entire time, and my very first start was Memorial Day, which is something that no team would ever do today. They get all their players involved. They make sure they make a start. Within 3 days into the season, every guy on your team has made a start, and they've gotten in there. Now, I had made a couple defensive replacements. I don't think I really pinch hit. I think I got in a game when, we had a rain delay and Tony Arms' back stiffened up, so I was in a game and I got a couple at-bats. So I had a few at-bats before my first major league start. But in that first major league start on Memorial Day of 1985, I had 3 hits, including 2 home runs, wow. which was the best day of my career. Which, if you admit that means that the next 9 years of my life in the big leagues was a steady decline.
No, Steve, we think you did pretty good. And eventually, after the Red Sox, you got traded. What happened there? Was Tom Seaver involved with that?
Yeah. He, God rest his soul, he wouldn't think that was too much of a feather in his cap, but I guess I did. I was traded for a Hall of Famer. At the time, all the press was saying that between the Red Sox and the Yankees, whoever was able to trade for Seaver would probably win the division. And Seaver lived in Connecticut. He was playing in Chicago at the time. He kept saying that he wanted to get out and play closer to home. And so that deal was made. And, it didn't help me much, really. I mean, as soon as I got to the Chicago White Sox, I really believed that it was Tony La Russa who wanted to trade for me. And he got fired as the manager of the White Sox 2 days after I got there.
Oh, my goodness.
And so then Jim Fregosi took over, and he literally didn't even know who I was.
Wow, that's a harsh change of venue. Who was the Chicago GM back then, Steve?
Hawk Harrelson.
Was it the Hawk? Okay.
Yeah. He, in fact, I was the first trade he made as GM. That was his first year as GM, and the first deal that he made was to trade for me, which, again, he'd probably say that wasn't his finest hour.
Oh.
Well, that's a little bit harsh, Steve. It's just like if you hit 2 home runs in a game, everybody pitching against you in the future is going to know that, going to mark down and say, hey, this guy's got some power. Let's not pitch him where he can hit it out. I mean,
the book on me always was the same thing. I tried my whole life to get better at being able to hit other pitches. You continually try to get better. If you're not, you're going to get worse. And I knew I was an overachiever. I had to play kind of over my head to be an average major league player. But, I was known as the guy that could hit the fastball. You threw me the fastball, I was going to hit it.
Yep.
You threw me anything else, I was going to have a lot of trouble with it. So occasionally pitchers would get behind in the count, and maybe they didn't have much of a choice. And so I lived on pitchers who were either stupid enough to keep throwing me fastballs or get behind in the count where they had to.
What about that incident with the when you went to first, you slid into first, and they keep showing it all the time, where you had to get the dirt off your pants, and unfortunately the shorts and the pants came down to something. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I needed a date. We were playing the date. Wasn't much going on. I figured, why not?
Well, what happened that you had to slide and you bunted, right?
Yeah, I had bunted the ball to the right side, and your intent when you're doing that is you want the pitcher to take 2 steps towards the ball thinking that he can get to it, but you really want to bunt it hard enough so you get it past him and it goes to the second baseman. And then the first baseman has to make a decision. Does he go get the ball, or does he let the second baseman come in to get it? So you're trying to create a lot of confusion.
Right.
Hopefully everyone for the ball and they leave the base open and you just walk to first base. But if the first baseman's smart, he stays home. He allows the second baseman to field it, and then you just try to make the play. And so my objective is to run fast enough to beat the second baseman to first base before he can field the ball and throw me out. And what happened there was I was close, and so I slid head first, and I think I was out. Replay would have called me out, but they didn't have it back then. And they called me safe. And so Cecil Fielder, who was the first baseman for Detroit, and oh gosh, I can't think of the pitcher now that I'm thinking of him.
Was Petrie involved with that? The pitcher,
What's that?
Petrie? Was Petrie the pitcher for that?
Yes. Jim Petrie was the pitcher, and Dan Evans was the first base umpire, and they were all arguing. He was like, "How can you call him safe? I got him. I beat him there. He's out." And he had a bunch of other words that I can't say on the show. And I just thought I was still standing on first base, and I felt all the dirt running down the inside of my pants, and I just felt like I needed to get it out of there, and I just kind of brain cramped and didn't realize I was still standing on the field.
Hey,
Yeah.
I you know what? I can't say that everybody was complaining that day, Steve. I'm sure.
Did you get a date?
Hey,
I got a lot of calls the next day from people. Some of them were even women.
I'm sure you did, Steve. You stand out for that, Steve. And you were also actually distinct for playing all 9 defensive positions, correct? In one single game in Major League level. Now, what game was that?
Yeah, that was, there's a few feathers in my cap.
Yes, there are.
It was a game that we played against the Chicago Cubs. The White Sox and the Cubs used to play against each other every year before the advent of interleague play. And I was having a season where I wasn't getting a chance to play very much, and I knew that, my manager was Jeff Torbrook at the time, knew that I wanted to do it, and he said, well, let's pick this game and do it. And I'm one of only 3 people to ever do it, so that's kind of nice. It, really shows the fact that the reason why I played in the big leagues for 9 years was not because I was a good hitter, but was because I could catch the ball and I could literally play any position on the field. And so that gives your team a lot more versatility where you don't have to carry an extra infielder and an extra outfielder, because I was both.
Absolutely.
And it gives you a chance to make your team a little deeper in other positions that you may want to bolster. And I think I hold a record for the Red Sox. I believe I'm the only player in Red Sox history to play all 9 positions and DH in one season, not one game.
Oh, that's right. No, thank you for correcting me on that. Yes, you are, Steve. Yes, and which is a great feat for you, and it's a great way to really impact the sport and really be an inspiration for other players to grow themselves?
Yeah, basically, I couldn't keep a job. I always had to keep switching positions to try to figure out if I could stay on the field. But to me, if you look at, I tell kids anytime I get a chance to talk to kids, I always ask them what's their favorite position to play, and they'll tell me. One kid will say, "Hey, first base is where I love to play," and I said, "Well, then you need to bust your tail every day and take 100 ground balls at first base, work on your footwork, and do all that, and then when you're done, go take fly balls in left field, or go find somewhere else to play where you can be adequate, because one day you're going to run into a kid who's a better player at first base than you are. And if you can't play anywhere else, you're going to be sitting on the bench." So my versatility was something that kept me in the big leagues. And I've always said that if you can play center field and shortstop, then you can play anywhere, because the shortstop is easily the toughest position on the infield, and center field is your most versatile, your quickest, your best outfielder in the outfield. And if you can play both those positions, then you can play anywhere, except catcher maybe. Catching's the tough.
So, Steve, you go from being a player to being a broadcaster. You're sitting in the press box. You're looking at the field. What did you learn at that moment, the first time you did that you didn't know when you were down on the playing field?
Oh, it's so much easier when you're sitting up there watching the game from above. Why didn't you hit that pitch? Oh, that ball's right down the middle. How can you not swing at that pitch? Oh, I got so much better. When every year I was out of the game, I got better. Another couple of years, I'll be a Hall of Famer. It's tough, It's tough when you're on the field. The game's hard, and that was one of the things that I tried to pride myself when I was broadcasting, is to let you know that, man, if you see a guy make an error and you're sitting at home going, "How do you not catch that ball?" I'd always say, "Hey, let's look at it again in slow motion," because in slow motion, everybody looks like they should catch it, but there's there's a funky little hop that the guy got, and wasn't expecting that. He wasn't able to react quick enough, and that's why he made the error. Or in certain cases, there's just a lack of concentration or a little lapse in judgment, and the ball went through his legs. If you hit him that ball, 20 more times, he'll catch it 20 times. But this time he didn't, and he got an error, and he knows it. Usually you can get on a player for making a mistake, but if you don't berate them or belittle them or tell the fans and the audience how difficult it is, then you sugarcoat it a little bit, and it makes it easier to understand.
Steve, what's your future look like? You said we talked off the air a little bit, but why don't you? You're like a diamond. You should get back into broadcasting or something. Do some commercials or something. That'd be great.
Yeah.
People love you, Steve.
Yeah, I guess all the wrong people love me. I loved doing what I did. I was a 10 times better broadcaster than I was a ball player. I have a strong opinion. Some people think I'm a little off the wall or think differently than most, but I'm smart enough to back up every opinion I have with reasons why I think the way I think. I believe that I have something to say. I love the game of baseball. I do think I should still be broadcasting. I see people that have a job that I believe I'm better than, but I've also had some scrapes in my life. I was fired from the Fox network for saying something that they said was racially insensitive. And if you talk to anybody who listened to the game or has researched it since, nobody can find the insensitive comment that I made. I believe that I would still probably be working for Nesson, except for I think the general consensus there was that I was too honest, and I criticized the team when they were bad. And I believe that the ownership at Nesson wants you to say good things about the team, no matter how poorly they're playing. And I was there for 8 years, and we won one World Series title in 2018, and that was spectacular. But they also finished in last place 4 years when I was there. Last place, with a $220 million payroll. Am I supposed to say that everything's fine? Am I supposed to say, let's get them next time, guys? No, I couldn't do that. I was a realist in the game, and I talked about the game the way it was supposed to be talked about. And if there was a criticism to be made, I made it for the opposing team, and I made it for the Red Sox if it was the truth. And they didn't like that.
Well, the fans certainly liked it, Steve.
Right. I really think that the ownership is pretty out of touch with what their fan base really likes. I mean, my favorite thing to say about Red Sox fans is that you're really not happy unless you're miserable. And so,
Isn't that the truth?
I mean, we love to complain about some stuff, and they're, they're the smartest fans in the world. So I felt like my duty was to the audience, was to the fans listening. And if I wasn't authentic to them, then I'm a fraud, and so I just couldn't see myself just shutting up, which I saw happen in Red Sox broadcasts all the time, where there was something that should have been said about a play that was just made, and no one would say a thing about it, as if that's the way things are supposed to be. And basically, they didn't want to say anything because they want to get in trouble for saying something bad. I
agree 100% with you, Steve. These days, people are too soft. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is these days. People are, too sensitive, and it's the problem. And I mean, I agree 100%. What I really like hearing you say, you've commented a couple of times about kids and whatnot. Now, as far as your future goes, if you don't decide to keep it professional or do broadcasting, do you have any involvement with kids? You seem like quite an inspiration. And now that you're retired and you do have time, do you ever see yourself using that time to really lead children to the future of what baseball could be?
I really should do something. I have been, honestly, I can tell you that for the first year and a half I was out of the game. It was during the COVID situation too. Here's what happened. I did the COVID season where it was 60 games, and I did 55 of the 60 games broadcast by NESN that year, and then was told that my contract wasn't going to be renewed for the next season. So I guess those 5 games that I didn't do, someone else did such a better job than me that they decided that they didn't need me back anymore. So that was flabbergasting to me why I wasn't coming back. But quite frankly, I was down about it. I was feeling sorry for myself. I didn't know what to do with myself. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. In the broadcast world today, if you didn't play for a particular organization, you won't be a broadcaster for them. Like, there was an opening with the Angels out here, and I would have been perfect for it, but I never played for the Angels. And quite frankly, they told me that. They said, we're looking for a former Angel. And I said, well, I think that's a short-sighted way of seeing things, because there are 29 other teams out there, and there's a bunch of players and now broadcasters that did play for those teams, and you're limiting yourself. So you're going to find some former Angel who fell out of a tree and decided he wanted to be a broadcaster, and now you're going to have to listen to him 120 times a year, whereas I'm sitting over here going, I've been a broadcaster now for 25 years. There's no learning curve with me. I know what's going on, and I'll come in and do the job from day one. But if you look around these days, you'll notice there are no guys broadcasting for any local team that didn't play for that team. And so I'm very, very limited as far as getting a job back in the broadcasting world, unless you go national, which I already did with Fox, and they fired me. So I'm not going
Fox
back
fired you?
there.
I can't believe it.
I know.
I worked for ESPN before I worked for Fox, and they got mad when I took the Fox deal over them. And so they said, you're probably not ever going to come back to ESPN. So I've had some tough things follow me around. And, it took me a long time to just kind of face facts. So I've been retired and kind of getting used to doing nothing.
No way.
So, Steve, you got baseball from a broadcasting standpoint is pretty fragmented. I mean, you got to have 4 or 5 different streaming services just to watch every game of your favorite team. Do you see that? I see that as a big problem in terms of being able to stay a fan of your team and follow it and watch every particular game. You're commissioner of baseball right now. How would you change that?
Well, it all comes down to money, and we're seeing how, and I'm technologically an idiot, so I'm not even sure. You're right. I can't watch half of those things because, hey, Tuesday night, Major League Baseball's on Apple TV. I don't even know how to turn on Apple TV. So, how I'm an idiot, so how can I even watch? It used to be, I'm living in Los Angeles now. I worked for the Dodgers for 10 years before I came back and worked for Boston. Vin Scully did Dodger games for like 69 years. Dodger fans were used to hearing the same voice. After the Red Sox, or not the Red Sox technically, after NESN let me go, they hired 8 guys to take my place. You didn't know who was talking to you night in and night out. And baseball was always a game of repetition, including who were the announcers talking to you. You knew as soon as you turned the TV on who was going to be on, who was broadcasting the game, and who you were listening to, and what you liked and disliked about those guys and whatever. You know, it was fun to talk about it. Now, you have no idea who's going to be doing the game from network to network, from broadcaster to broadcaster, and it won't change because all those new streaming services are all new streams of revenue for the game.
And you've got, you know, the problem now with electric vehicle manufacturers trying to take AM radios out of cars. I grew up listening to the Cincinnati Reds on WLW for years, and I think, well, before that even with but you've got, you know, Al Michaels did the games for a while, and you lose that connection to the radio station, you lose that connection to the team, and now you might even lose the opportunity to listen to the game at all.
Yeah, it's a changing world. I mean, you know, you guys briefly hit on the changes in the game. I mean, I'd get fired again because I can't stand the way the game's played right now. It's changed so much, and you brought up how, you know, everybody's so soft now. You know, we get a trophy for showing up these days. You know, no one loses a game anymore. What was the score? 20-1. No, we didn't keep score. Our team was just as the other team. You know, that I think that's a problem as kids get older. They don't handle adversity as we did. You know, there's a huge rise in mental health issues, and I'm not sure if that contributes to it. I'm not a doctor, I don't understand, but it seems to me we coddle our children so much so that whenever they do have a chance to have to face some adversity, they don't know what to do with it. And some people go off the deep end. And, you know, I have to think that there's some sort of link between the two somewhere along the line.
So do you have any children at all? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell us about them. All the major leaguers seem to have you know, children coming up, and some of them are in the major leagues, you know?
Yeah, that won't be me, considering I had all daughters.
Oh, I see.
Oh, well.
We didn't know. None of us knew that, right?
I have 3 daughters, a grandson, and now a great-granddaughter, I guess. So I'm all over the map. I'm like trailer park trash. I just have all my teeth.
Oh, I see.
Well, that sounds like a party, Steve. Honestly, that you could start your own team soon, right?
Yeah.
Steve, did you ever have any thoughts of getting into the managing side of baseball?
You know, I did right when I was done, but there were 2 things stopped me. Well, there was a lot of things that stopped me, I guess. I never actually asked for a job, but I was an average player again. When my career was over, I was 33 years old, and I just wondered, who's going to give a managing job to a guy who was an average major league player and his nickname is Psycho? So I felt like I would have been an excellent instructor and a really good motivator. And I think those are the 2 things you need, especially in the minor leagues. But I had not made enough money in my playing career with a wife and 2 kids to walk away from the game and not get another job that paid well. You know, at that time, I think they were paying minor league managers less than $30,000 a year. And I just didn't think I could endure that to go along with the 13-hour bus rides from town to town. I wouldn't have been able to afford to keep my family eating in a situation like that.
Right.
Yeah. Now, do you have a foundation? We're getting close to the end, Steve. This is your chance to promote your book or anything like that. Do you have a book or a foundation or anything where you're helping people?
I don't. I wrote a couple books, but both of them were so long ago. I think Amazon actually pays you if you want one of the books.
Yeah, we'd like to know. Let the audience know. What's the name of your book?
The first book I wrote was called Psychoanalysis.
Okay.
It was actually very well received, but you got to remember it's also, I think most of the stories in it are evergreen, but it was published in 1994, so it's been a long time since some of the people in the book have been relevant, but the stories are still pertinent, and the things that I used to think about are are still legit to read the book. Another book I wrote was called The Psycho 100, and that book has no real heart and soul. It's kind of a coffee table book. It's a list of the 100 craziest plays ever happening in baseball, and I just kind of list those. And obviously, when I pulled my pants down, that was one of them. But there's certain others out there, but I don't have a foundation. I'm just kind of sailing along. I'm kind of getting used to being retired. I'm traveling the world with my fiance, and we hang around here. We don't. Right now, I'm lying in bed recovering from my second spinal surgery, which has not gone all that well. I'm wondering if it may have to be redone. I hope not, but I'm in far greater pain as we speak than I should be 3 weeks out of surgery. So I'm hoping that rectifies itself one way or another, so I can get up and around again.
Great, Steve. We've enjoyed you, and unfortunately it's only a half hour. We really wanted to talk for an hour, the way the conversation's going. We love what you've done, and we'll let people know. Amazon to pick up those 2 books that he mentioned, and feel free to get in touch with me if you want an autograph from Steve Lyons. Maybe he'll send it out. Put in a $10 bill for him.
Hey, Steve, the best of healing, the best of luck with your healing as well, Steve.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Any parting words? Go ahead.
Fascinating broadcaster, and I think he just got caught, in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I might have been the first cancel culture guy in 2006 when I got fired by Fox for no reason. And you guys, I'll say this, I do, self-deprecation was one of the best things that helped me in my career. I was really good at telling you that there's no way I could hit Roger Clemens' fastball. Neither can you. This is how hard it is to do. I couldn't hit it. But, as a broadcaster, I knew I was much better.
Steve, I'm sorry. They're telling me to wrap it up. And just tell me, did you enjoy this half hour?
I did. It was good. Great time.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Former broadcaster and Red Sox star Steve Lyons on the phone with us on the Henry Baseball Show. Sandra, Tim, thanks for being here. Henry, it was great to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you
Be
too.
part of your baseball show
great.
today. I just wish I'd gotten a jersey.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it a lot, but I just wish I'd gotten a jersey.
Okay, well, we're working on it.
All right, thank you. I'm Mark, and thanks for watching the Henry Baseball Show.